All right, good morning. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd. I'm Anthony, and this is Drive Dive. So, like I said, started to read a book called Scrolling Ourselves to Death. And it's reflecting on technologies and how they've altered our lives, ultimately for the worse in a lot of ways. Maybe done some good, but also done a lot of bad. And so, I don't know what I just read, just a few pages of like the very first chapter. I spoke about the introduction in my video yesterday, but first chapter talk about, I guess, some sort of theoretical exercise where talk about euthanizing humans and building such a roller coaster that would do that, right? Something that initially would give you this sort of high, right? This dopamine release and like make you feel good, but then ultimately get to, I don't know, such speeds or I don't know, so many G's of force or something like that would ultimately kill you. And so it's like inventing this pleasurable way to kill a human being, to euthanize a human being. And I guess making the comparison that something like that cell phones ultimately, and a lot of the technologies and streaming platforms and all of that, this video on demand where we can entertain ourselves all the time, is essentially a decades-long version of that roller coaster, which is just so interesting to me. And I don't know if it's a pretty bleak view of things, but I don't know. I have a hard time, disagreeing with it when I see some of the effects that technology can have on our minds, on our relationships, and I don't know. It's so tough, right? I mean, I teach high school, so I see it a lot, and talking about our addiction to cell phones and technologies. I guess, right, like this addiction, recognizing that, a moment of boredom and we're itching to get to a screen. They mentioned the phantom buzzing in your pocket, right? Phantom vibrations calling you to check your cell phone, right? The number of times that you just unlock your phone to look for a notification, some sort of message or whatever that you missed, right? It's just there's this constant pull. They mentioned this specific example of pornography and just if you've fallen into those traps, this cycle of I don't know, just being so reliant on phones. But I guess they try to get into the brain science of it all and how it triggers a dopamine release. But that, evolutionary speaking, our brains aren't designed to live in this environment where there's this constant dopamine, release, and that you build up a tolerance, right? A little bit of dopamine feels great, and that little bit is enough the first handful of times, but then it starts to not be enough, and now we need more, and gradually more and more and more, to trigger that same effect, pleasurable effect. And so we then seek it out more regularly, and it's more challenging as a result to then go through those periods of time where we're not receiving that dopamine release. And I am honestly reminded of a couple of students I have who really are addicted to video game play and being on their screens, that when I don't know, they come into class. One kid came into class after taking the PSAT, and I don't know, in his mind he was expecting, we just took a test yesterday, so when I go to math class today it's going to be a free period. I don't know where that idea came from, but that's what he thought. And as soon as I told him that wasn't the case, informed the class, of the agenda for the day, he totally freaked out. And I'm going oh yeah, it kind of, it feels like somebody going through withdrawal, really, snapping, like an alcoholic snapping at someone, because they're craving that next drink, right? This student snapped at me because he's craving that next opportunity to play a video game to trigger that dopamine release in his brain and have that pleasurable experience. And I think the author attributes the same sort of thing happening to short form media like TikTok videos and, you know, shorts and reels on, YouTube and, oh my goodness, what is that, Instagram? Does Instagram have reels? Anyhow, where he actually compares that to, and compares that to gambling, to playing a slot machine, where basically, you know, you're watching short after short after short. Many of them are duds, but then you do get that occasional, you know, the one that makes you laugh, the one that really makes you react, and that's where you get that dopamine release. It's basically, you know, you're sitting at a slot machine. You're not going to win much of the time. You're going to get close. Oh, bar, right, cherry, You're going to get close, and then it hits, and you get that dopamine release, and now you pump more money in because you want it again, and you develop that sort of, you know, that sort of gambling addiction, and now it's being addicted to cell phones, like I said, you know, short form media. So it's just so interesting to, you know, reflect on things that way, and also troubling. But like I said, I see it in my students. I feel like I see it, you know, sometimes in myself, right? Like I shared yesterday, you know, that the whole reason I'm making these videos, or the benefit I feel I'm getting, is just overall feeling more productive. With this long commute, I get to make a video, and, you know, I guess it's prompted me to go a little bit further, right? I mean, I do have to have something to talk about when I make these videos, something that I think would be of interest, you know, not just recording for the sake of recording. So, you know, diving into some literature, I feel like I'm, one, learning, but two, around this theme of productivity, I guess learning about ways to be more productive, learning about certain barriers to, you know, productivity, and reflecting on all of that, you know, internally, and then being able to share those thoughts out here in video form. You know, am I becoming part of the problem? I don't, you know, for others, right, by creating this media, and you know, are they then consuming it? Are others in turn consuming it, you know, mindlessly or in some pleasurable way to trigger a dopamine release? I don't think so. You know, that's certainly not my intention. You know, but as I said, reflecting on my own, you know, use of technology and such, I then do in turn like to check YouTube Studio and such and see, oh, what are my analytics? You know, and I guess I do get that sort of, you know, dopamine release when, you know, I see that I got, you know, X number of views in a 48-hour period, or this particular video got so many likes, or, you know, something to that effect. It does sort of play in. So I have to, I guess, constantly remind myself, you know, that's not why I'm doing it. Yes, it's great. It's secondary or tertiary benefit to doing this. The ultimate goal is, you know, do I feel more productive? If I can check that box, let that be enough. Let that trigger, you know, that release, and give me that moment of relief, right? Where, yes, like I've accomplished something today, you know, that I otherwise would not have had I, you know, not made a video. I would have felt as bad about my commute as I did for the first few months of this, you know, this school year, you know, before I really got into this habit, this routine around, I guess it was around, you know, end of December, beginning of January. And so now, you know, for the past 4.5-ish months, engaging in this habit, this routine, I feel a whole lot better about my commute. And now it's a matter of not allowing it to have these negative effects of now checking, you know, YouTube Studio for the analytics and all that. But I guess that's what the authors started to say, like in a nutshell, right? Where the use of technology has allowed me to do something good, certainly for myself, right? Something good, something positive. I've been using YouTube and creating video content as a way of, one, feeling better about myself, two, engaging in different activities with my son, right? And as we create video of our, you know, Fortnite gameplay or Roblox and things, you know, the gameplay, or even our Disney Lorcana, whether it's card reveals or some of that gameplay, you know, we've started to get into, or just conversations about gameplay that we just went through at, you know, league play against other people, and how we did. We, you know, recorded a video there. And so it's done some good, right? And then it's, like I said, it's kind of started to do some bad, where if I'm not careful, I can, I guess, become addicted, to checking YouTube, checking analytics, my watch hours and views, and all of those things, right? And then that would take time away from, my wife, my daughter, my son, in other settings, other times of the day, right? From other productive activities like, household chores, right? And cutting the grass and doing laundry and all that stuff, or doing things related to my job, like grading papers and writing lesson plans and all of that. Not fun stuff, right? It doesn't release dopamine, I don't think, as frequently, certainly, as checking YouTube Studio or watching reels or shorts or, what have you. As I'll be honest, as frequently as like just sitting down and watching episodes of Daredevil on Disney Plus, which was something I'd started to do, and I realized you're just getting sucked in. Like, what does this do for you? Yes, we do need that downtime, but is it possible to have some downtime without, that dopamine, right? Without that feel good dopamine release. And so I guess that's where my brain is right now, is trying to figure out, okay, like, if this is ultimately what's driving our behavior, right? This dopamine release, in our brains and feeling good from it. Like, what else would trigger such a release? If we can identify those things, right? The healthy, the productive, the positive things that would trigger that same dopamine release, give us that same pleasurable feeling. If we can identify those and then incorporate those activities into our daily habits and routines and the activities we engage in with other people, what we say to other people, right? We might be able to trigger that dopamine pleasure effect for others, right? We might be able to do some good for some people in that way. If we can identify those things, maybe we can engage in those instead of shorts and reels, and for me, right? Checking YouTube analytics and notifications, and did I get an email, and who checked out my LinkedIn profile, et cetera, right? We can move away from those things and move toward, the similarly pleasurable, but, positive, productive, engaging activities that help us bond with our loved ones, right? And that's, I don't know, hopefully what I'll be expanding upon in future videos. But that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed that little reflection as I go through these, mental gymnastics and exercises, thinking about what I've read, reflecting on my personal life, what to share with you all in this, 13-minute time span. So thanks for watching. Happy Wednesday. Like, subscribe, share. Please comment down below any thoughts on, habits, routines, and dopamine, and different ways to get that same effect. I'd appreciate connecting with you, which is something technology does allow us to do, right? So, give me that dopamine release. Comment down below. I'll appreciate it and get back to you, and hopefully do the same for you. So, with that, have a great day. Catch you tomorrow.